Hey, I was just wondering something. I wondered if you could possibly help me with it. I was wondering who's the best rugby player to never win a Rugby World Cup. I mean, there's the obvious kind of elephant in the room with Jonah Lomu, who was actually bigger than that elephant. You've then got players from before the Rugby World Cup existed, the Gareth Edwards of the world. Please send us all of your suggestions and we'll read plenty of them out next week. So it's been a long time coming, but England are the 2020 Six Nations champions in both sides of the game. The women's team completed the Grand Slam, beating Italy in the only women's match to go ahead this weekend. They were crowned as champions already, but they completed a fantastic Grand Slam with a comprehensive win over an Italy team that put up a bit of a fight, but in the end just weren't enough for a fantastic England side. Likewise in Rome, Italy really made England work for it, and within a shout at half time they could have been level, but for two tries, one being held up and one being disallowed with Furbank beating Mori to the ball. But Italy then couldn't quite keep it up as England began to slowly pull away and got the bonus point they needed to win the championship, despite France going and playing pretty well. You know, they need to win by 31 points in order to beat England and win the title. In the end, they couldn't quite manage that, but at one point it looked like it might begin to happen. They scored some fantastic tries. Ireland only needed to win by 6, but they couldn't do that again. They were beaten by this incredibly talented young French team who are so... I mean, Antoine Dupont, the line he runs for Intermax try is phenomenal. There's quite a few French players in that team who have had incredible years. They'll learn a lot from them missing out in Scotland in Mayfield and will go from there. And speaking of Scotland pulled off another win. They're now on a record equalling run in the Six Nations in terms of win streaks as they beat Wales in the Six Nations for the first time since 2002. I, as a Wales fan, going to cling on to the fact that it wasn't in Cardiff, it wasn't in the Millennium, so in some ways it doesn't count.
I'm not a sore loser, it's just that I prefer to win, and when I don't, I get furious.
But it very much does count. It wasn't perhaps the most spectacular game of rugby, but it was one that Scotland absolutely deserved to win. They were, by some way, the better side. Elsewhere in Europe, Spain pulled off a famous win over Uruguay, 32-20, pulling away in the second half after a pretty tight first half. They scored a fantastic try strip in the kickoff. Loads of offloading, loads of brilliant running rugby. Spain are looking a proper force to be reckoned with as they head into World Cup qualifying in the next couple of years. Keep an eye on Spain. And the other test match, finally, some little team called New Zealand, who play in mostly black as far as I'm aware, beat a team called Australia pretty comprehensively as well. It was a record win for the All Blacks over the Wallabies third biggest loss of all time, and it's hard to argue much with them. And here to look at it in slightly more detail is my look at the win over the All Blacks at the weekend, as well as the rugby, not the Rugby Championship, is it? The Tri Nations in 2008.
Yes,
the
we
Rugby
can.
Championship coming up ahead. I just said Rugby Championship again, didn't I? I meant Tri Nations. I can't get out of that habit. It took me so long to break that habit, and now I'm just going to keep saying it. Tri Nations coming up.
Round 1604 of the 2020 Players of the Cup, and it's the most comprehensive yet. After a first round draw and a solid second time round win, this week New Zealand flexed themselves into a hugely impressive win over a Wallaby team that weren't awful, but were totally powerless to stop the All Blacks march right to their try line. After initially appearing to be Steve Hanson's team in a fancy wig, Ian Foster's All Blacks finally changed a bit and added suffocating to their game plan, totally shutting down the Wallabies and choking them out of the game on Saturday. They were relentlessly in the Wallaby faces and saw tries come as rewards for keeping it up and up and up, and indeed, the only passage where Australia were able to keep the ball and keep it under the control and pour forward led to their one try scored by debutant 10 Noel Olaseo. They face each other again once more next week before finally Los Pumas get involved in the new look Tri Nations, Argentina having been seemingly training together for a very long time at this point, and they'll be very ready to try and take a few bites into this All Blacks team and into this Wallabies side. It's going to be a very exciting little tournament to come.
So the Tri-Nations continues this weekend as New Zealand play Australia. Again, Australia looking to very much bounce back. And then the following week, Argentina finally get involved. Very looking forward to seeing them play finally. In domestic rugby, so people have called Dwayne Vermeulen Thor after the Marvel character with the Norse god for quite a long time, but I didn't think it was literally the case. However, it seems to have been after the Bulls game where he was captain, was called off after the Bulls scored their bonus point try due to a massive lightning storm. The game didn't continue, but it was too late. Mornay Stain had already gone completely mad and created some wonderful tries for the Bulls for them to win that game confidently. I was going for the word comfortably, but I actually say confidently. That's fine, either works. Meanwhile, the Lions beat the Griquas, their first win of the tournament so far, in a 9-5 win. Proper thriller, plenty going on there. That game not called off before time. There time to squeeze tries in right until the end. Although a game you kind of wish was called off slightly earlier was the Scarlets' 6-3 loss to Edinburgh at Parker Scarlets. A second big win for a Scottish side at Parker Scarlets over a Welsh team playing in red this weekend that will come away feeling quite depressed. The Scarlets have only got 2 tries in 4 games. It's not looking great for the Scarlets so far, but we'll see how they turn things around. It's a long season, and the last time they had a season this kind of turgid and it didn't start very well, they really picked it up and went on to win the thing. So we'll see what happens from here. Elsewhere, Munster, another team in red, are unbeaten so far. They've kept their run up with a win over the Dragons. They miss out on the bonus point, but they look pretty comfortable doing so. And in France, some drama. Agen lost 71-5 to Bordeaux, and then before anyone got a chance to even say anything, the manager was out.
You're fired.
Forwards coach
You're fired. You're fired.
All changes being run. The management, the president of the club, said that it was embarrassing and anxiety-inducing several times, and just fired everyone involved. So we'll see what goes on at Agen as we roll on to the coming weeks, and the top 14 continues to play 1 billion games over the course of their season. Finally, last week I asked you who are the most reliable players in the history of rugby. We had quite a lot of answers come in. We have Elliot Daly from Callum saying he's never seen him have a bad game or a spectacular game, he's just consistently decent. Guillaume says Thierry Dusatois, maybe the most reliable player for France years on end. WU says Rob Carney, always solid under the high ball. Very good shout. Hadley Parks, Jonathan Davis, again, very tidy centre partnership he brings up. Hadley Parks is a great shout. He never had a bad game in his entire life. Dan Carter from you can't really argue with Dan Carter. He was okay. He was pretty solid at the old egg thing. John Eales and Michael Liner from Oz Rugby. John Eales comes up again. Laura Bob says, in my mind, he's still the official captain of the Wallabies. No matter how much time passes, it's always going to be John Eales. South Africa in 7s. Yes, great shout by Jordan there. South Africa was always almost unplayable. Victor Matfield, king of the line-out, absolutely. Kazuki Himeno, yeah, very good shout. Has been excellent for Trent ever since coming in as a young second row, and then obviously shifting into back row since. Someone just said Richie. I'm assuming McCaw, could be Gray, could be Mwanga, could be my uncle Richie, who doesn't exist. Loads and loads of these. Sam Kane has been so good since the All-Blacks captaincy. It's kind of been glossed over. Kieran Reid, Owen Farrell, loads and loads of them. Thank you for sending those in. And also, enormous, I want to make a quick mention to Dan Palmer, the former Wallabies prop, who this week has been the second male international test player to come out as being gay. To come out, and I can't quite express just how proud I was to read the article. I'd highly recommend you go out and you search it and you find the article he wrote about his experiences, both kind of in rugby and generally in life. It's enormously inspiring and an incredible story, and I want to urge everyone to read that, to look up Dan Palmer's story, and in the meantime, I'll see you next week for more of The Feed.